is one of those shows that most of us can relate to. I mean, whether you're in a relationship now or not, relationships are a tough business. And we had some couples in the audience who were attesting to that. I mean, not many of us can say that we do relationships particularly well. I mean, we all have problems here and there. But if your relationship is one that is worth the fight, then this show today is for you. We're going to hear from a woman who says that she has been stood up 26 times. And some of us can relate to that. We're also going to meet a love doctor who's going to explain to us about some of the things that we keep doing wrong again and again and again in relationships, which is why many of those loves have not led to commitment. Getting just a little closer to saying I do next on Rolonda. Time and time again, and you say, God, what do I keep doing wrong? I mean, when it comes to romance, we need help sometimes, and today we're going to give you some tips to help you out, to get it right. But first, I'd like you to meet Babette. Now, Babette says that she is single in Seattle, and even though she's an attractive, smart woman with a great sense of humor who looks for available men everywhere she goes, she says she just can't seem to find a man to commit, or even worse, just keep a date. It's gotten so bad that she decided to write that book. And she entitled it, I've Been Stood Up 26 Times and Other Times I Wish I Had. Please welcome a woman with a great sense of humor whose family has offered a $1,000 a month dowry for 3 years to any man who will commit to her. This is Babette. Hi. You crack me up. You really do. I mean, this whole book, I love the title, first of all, and I understand that it comes from a true life story that you've experienced it.
I started writing this book. The last story in the book is the reason I wrote this book. What had happened was I had met a guy, Super Bowl Sunday, and he was perfect. He was really cute, educated, employed.
That helps.
Had a great tushy. And he had asked me out at the end of Super Bowl, and I was very flattered, and I said, of course, for sure. And he asked me out for that night. So we had arranged for him to come, bring Chinese food, and watch The Sound of Music, innocent enough. And he showed, and I was grateful that he showed, number one. So we sat down, we ate the Chinese food, you know.
The hills were alive.
Oh, the hills
The Sound of Music.
Definitely alive. So alive that my brother in the other apartment was hearing what was going on. There was passion. As Maria was falling in love with the captain, I was falling in love with this guy. There was a lot of passion. It went very far, far enough that afterwards I went in to brush my teeth. Okay? And when I came out of the bathroom, he was gone. And I looked, I thought he was being cute. So I looked in the closet thinking he's hiding. And I looked under the bed. There's this much space under my bed. But I thought maybe he tried. He wasn't under the bed. So I went to the phone and called my doorman and I said, have you seen my date? And he said, well, yeah, he's coming off the elevator right now. And I said, well, could you stop him, please? So I ran downstairs and he was halfway down the block. And I wanted to scream out an obscenity, but my mother's upbringing didn't let me do that. So instead I scream out, excuse me, very threatening. He turns around, and for a minute I thought he's coming back. And then he turns around and he runs down the street away from me. And I'm sorry, but I know he was having a good time. I mean, there is no mistaking that, okay?
Well, why'd he run down the street?
At first I thought maybe he stole something from me. So I ran back upstairs and I looked, you know, in the jewelry box and I looked everywhere. Nothing was stolen. And I sat there, and when things like that happen, there's just nowhere to go with that. And plus it was late at night and there was no one to call. So I'm sitting there, I'm humiliated, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm mortified. I mean, I did that, you know, and then he leaves. And so I blew off the cobwebs on my typewriter and I started to write my book, I've Been Stood Up 26 Times, and other times I wish I had.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I really applaud is that you took such a horrible situation. I mean, I don't think there isn't anybody who couldn't relate. And you made it into a strength, and you learned something about yourself and about relationships and about some of the things that we do to make people hightail it down the block.
Yeah, it was a catharsis for me.
Yeah.
Instead of going to 20 years of therapy, I decided to write this book and sort of get payback in a way. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. I did keep one name in the book, a guy named Dick.
I think we know that guy, you know?
I figured any man in this day and age whose name is Richard and still introduces himself as Dick and ends up being one.
Now let me ask you this. What did you learn about yourself, about relationships, and about some of the things that you see that maybe sister girlfriends do?
First of all, being stood up is nothing to be humiliated about. It's nothing for you to take upon yourself that it's all your fault. I think a lot of women, when they get stood up, and men too, when they get stood up, they internalize it. What did I do? Did I smell? Did they not like me? What could I have done? Well, what could you have done if they don't even know you yet? And so you can't, that's something that a lot of women have a lot of problems with. They think that they have to be ugly in order to get stood up. They have to be, you know, disgusting or not nice or not this to get stood up.
Now, has anybody else here ever been stood up,
Honestly.
so to speak? Honestly.
Raise your
your
hand.
hands. Oh, I know it's embarrassing,
Okay,
but
here's
that's
a better
okay.
question.
But
Who has
admit,
stood people up?
who has stood people up?
Come on.
Now everybody's agreeing, but they won't raise their hands. I mean, you know, I know. But basically, when you're stood up, it means that something didn't work. There's something scared someone away. There's something just didn't go.
Or miscommunications.
What did you find from that particular experience that it was? I mean, what made the guy hightail?
I did find out. The guy whose party it was that I had originally met him at, I went to him and I said, what is the story with this schmuck, with this jerk? I mean, what is going on with him? And he said, I had no idea you were going to go out with him because I would have told you not to. I said, why? And he goes, he does that all the time. And I think that is just, I'm sorry. And so it wasn't me. And all that time I sat there, if I hadn't written the book that night, started it, it would have taken me 2 weeks. I would have been sitting there for weeks saying, my God, was I so stupid? How could I have done that and then have him run away? I mean, how awful.
Now, let me ask this gentleman here. This is Grandpa, everybody. I want you to meet, come on, Mr. Weisberg, stand up. This is Mr. Jacob Weisberg. He is Babette's grandpa. And can I brag on you? You're 95 years young.
That's right.
And before you get into telling us how we could all live to be that young.
I'm not old, I'm young.
You're what?
I'm young.
Oh, yeah, I know, you really are. And you're also wise. You've seen a lot. You could probably give us some tips today. But I know one thing is you're offering a $1,000, I don't want to say reward, but it's a $1,000 a month for the next 3 years to any man who's going to marry his granddaughter. Now, why
I wanted to get married.
You do?
As an incentive to get married, to make it life easier.
Do you
to start without worrying.
Do you think maybe Babette has trouble with commitment?
I don't know. Some trouble she has. Otherwise she would be married by now.
Grandpa says Babette must have some trouble or else she'd be married by now.
She's beautiful and smart.
So why don't you think she has a husband by now?
I wish I would know.
So Babette, what do you say when Grandpa
why
says this?
I'm offering the $1,000 a month as an incentive. Maybe her decision will be a little bit...
And they can buy a car after 3 years.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Weisberg. $1,000 a month. When we come back, we're going to meet some of the men that Babette says were bad dates. We're going to hear their side of the story. That's next. Stay with us.
Feeling really hot. My face was red, and all she did was laugh. I was totally disgusted, so I called the date off and I left then.
Move over, Fabio. We're picking a new, more mature hunk to cover romance novels. Don't miss the next Rolonda.
She didn't even know where she was supposed to be. I showed up at the boat and there was a note on there saying that I stood her up. She really flaked out. She's a flake.
We'll hate it when they call us that. He says he met Babette 2 years ago and that they made a date to go sailing, but the next thing he knows, Babette had left him a nasty note on the boat. This man says he was so upset about the note he didn't call Babette. Say hello to Bill Forsland. And on the other side of Babette is another man who says he thought there was a lot of chemistry between Babette and him, and then things got rather, well, you might call it, say things got hairy. Please welcome Michael Quagg. Hey, Quagg. Babette, these look like two really, cute guys.
They're adorable.
What'd she say in that nasty note?
Well, you know, we made a date to go sailing on Sunday. And
Saturday.
I showed up on Sunday,
Saturday.
and there was a note on the boat that said, I can't believe you stood me up. Well,
we just read
it
her
rhymes
lips.
with glass bowl or grassy knoll or something. And so I said, well, no, the date was on Sunday. So I went sailing by myself, and I never called her.
Sounds like there was a mix-up of the day here.
Oh,
It gets better. It gets better.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I go sailing, and I had a great time by myself. And I figured, well, you know, she's kind of a hot-headed girl. I'm just going to write her off. I'm not going to call her. So I didn't call her. So about 6 months later, I had a job interview. I was the interviewer. And who shows up at my desk but Babette? And I said,
No, I didn't get the job.
no, she didn't get the job. She interviewed well. I just thought there might be a conflict.
So now why did you, she wrote a book about folks like you, saying she was stood up 26 times, and I guess you're somewhere between 1 and 26.
No.
You didn't even include him in the
more.
book?
I just stopped counting at 26 because my ego couldn't handle it anymore. I thought 26 was a great number to stop at.
Well, Michael?
No, wait a minute. Our date was Saturday, and I showed up at the dock on Saturday. And this is how men always get away with this kind of. They pretend they have like selective memory. And I showed up and I waited for a good 2 hours, and I left that note because, you know, there comes a point where you just are tired of taking it, so you fight back a little bit. So I wrote, I can't believe you didn't show you Glassy Knoll. And then he didn't call or anything to apologize. I mean,
Well, you didn't call me. You did not call me. You have my number. You didn't call me and say, where are you, Bill?
because I thought
There's
to
a
myself,
phone
this
at
is
the
somebody I don't
marina.
want to know.
So
'Cause if
it's
he
kind
can
of
do
hard
that-
to get somebody to commit to being your friend, whatever level that takes, if you don't show up and even get to see each other.
Correct.
So it sounds like a communications problem to me.
I think it sounds like a hot-headed problem.
Yeah.
It sounds
jump
like a
communicate.
selective memory problem to me.
It sounds like somebody should have picked up the phone and said, well, did we get these
No,
things
but we
mixed
do
up?
deal with each other in business now.
We do.
We're
We're friends.
sort of.
So, Michael, how did things get hairy with you? What does that mean?
Well, Babette and I met about a week before this experience happened. We met at a gallery opening. We had exchanged numbers and made tentative plans to get together the following week for dinner. And I called her the following week. We set up a time and had a wonderful dinner. It was very enjoyable. The conversation was great.
And then?
We laughed a lot. And then she had mentioned the first time we met that she's a cat lover. But, you know, I was more into her sense of humor, her personality. I sort of let it slip. And I'm allergic to cats.
I have 5.
So things were going really well with the date, and we ended up at her apartment after dinner. I had forgotten about the cats at this point. We got in, and I had put my coat down. We were actually kissing, and one cat came out to visit, and then one by one, all 5 cats came out to visit. Now, at this point, my nose was running. My eyes were completely red and puffy.
You look terrible.
Two of the cats were sort of attacking my leg, and one was urinating on my leather coat.
Oh, no!
Don't you think that's funny?
So that's.
Well, we understand why he might leave.
I was laughing. He was so pissed.
She was laughing.
Well, yeah.
Now, let me ask the audience, would you leave under those circumstances?
You know, but you wouldn't leave really angry, would you?
Yeah.
But angry at me or angry at the cats? But I didn't make on his coat.
Hey, you know, you just don't leave mad, just leave, huh?
But I mean, it's really, you know, I thought it was funny. It's like one time I had a guy.
Babette, we'll give you a chance to defend yourself, but we got to take a break. When we come back, we're also going to meet a couple who talked, met, and then never talked again. We're going to find out what she says versus what he says when we come back, and how to make a commitment to just being friends. We'll come back.
Yeah, the whole evening we spent together, I felt like I was going to be introduced as her little boy. She's old enough, felt like she could be my mother.
I was really shocked when I saw him. He really wasn't at all what I expected. He was much younger, and I found his choice of topics to discuss pretty frivolous and shallow.
Oh, boy, that's a good reason to stop a date. I mean, we're talking about what we do on dates that might get in the way of a relationship starting. I mean, trying to find out, even if you start a relationship, you want some commitments. How do you do that? Well, joining us is a couple that said that they had one disastrous date. He says that after weeks on the phone with a bright, intelligent woman, he looked forward to finally meeting her. But after that meeting, he never wanted to see her again. Please welcome Clint Cropper. Isn't it nice how they come on the show and they talk so much stuff about each other with a smile on their face? The woman smiling next to Clint up there is the woman that Clint dissed. She says that she doesn't think she usually scares men off, but knows that she sure did this time. Say hello to Browen Matthews. And Bron and Clint, what happened here?
Who do you want to hear from first?
Well, we were set up through a mutual friend for a blind date, and we had only talked over the phone a couple times, and there was no mention of age. And there's 10 years difference between us. I'll let you figure out who's older, but so when I saw him, I was completely astounded. I had no idea that he was going to be 10 years younger than I am, and it just seemed like we didn't really have anything in common, anything to talk about. So it was kind of awkward.
So was that the only thing that got in the way, Clint? Was the age difference?
Pretty much the age difference, and just different ideas. We both have different ideas. My career and her career are completely different, as we talked about. And age difference was it, because granted, the first time I saw her, I had talked to her on the phone, so I thought she was a pretty neat person. We had some interesting conversations, but they were kind of boring a lot of times. So.
Oh, so you weren't getting as much out of this telephone conversation bonding action as much as Browning was. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't getting that much, but I wanted to meet her. I did want to meet her. I mean, there was something there. I wanted to meet her and see what was there in the physical aspect.
Now, see, are we in a day and age where everybody says, oh, age doesn't matter? In fact, some of us would like to have somebody 10 years younger.
It matters.
It matters.
It matters a lot.
Okay, so the age thing got in the way when you got together. Is this like in your own lives? I mean, this is just one isolated incident when you two got together, another relationship that didn't butt off, one that didn't start off for whatever reason. Is this still, I mean, do you find that as you're dating out there, it's tough to find somebody, or is it tough that once you find somebody to get them, you know, to take a chance on you?
Yes.
Go on, talk about that a little bit.
I think that once you find somebody, a lot of times you think you found the right person and you want them to move forward and to work together, but a lot of times your ideas don't quite fit, but you don't want to me, I don't want to say something that's going to offend them, get them all ticked off at you, and, you know, have them go their opposite way. So I think there's a lot of things you have to work with.
So it's more
in a companionship, it's total teamwork.
Exactly. What I also hear you saying, kind of what you're not saying, is that the age is really not really the big issue here. I mean, that might be a convenient excuse, but it's a whole lot more of the lack of compatibility. Right. What do you find as you date, Brent?
I think, first of all, it's hard enough just to put yourself in the situation where you can even meet people. I mean, that in and of itself is tough enough, just to find those people who are out there who also want to date. And then I think there's a lot of pressure, you know, to find the perfect person right off the bat. And so that adds to it and makes it difficult.
Question from the audience.
She was saying that age matters. I don't think so, because I always found that you can teach each other no matter how old you are.
Yeah, but you know, it's like even with music. I mean, the choice of music. I dated a guy who was 10 years younger than me. He listened to groups I don't even know. I've never even heard of before.
But even if you're really interested in the person, it really doesn't matter with the music that person listens to.
I don't agree.
I think possibly that could be true.
You learn how to share it just like everybody else has to learn how to share what men do in sports and baseball in the same way with women.
Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about, thank you so much, one of the things we're going to talk about is that, you know, we go back to that same old thing all the time, that men and women are two totally different species. I mean, first of all, we have to acknowledge and respect the fact that we are different, that we come to the table for different reasons and different thought processes. We even talk differently. So we have somebody who's coming on the show who's more of an expert type. Come on and join us. Who is going to tell us how to deal with those differences as well. You had a question, comment?
Yeah, I can't say that I'm completely objective, though. I'm Babette's brother.
Oh, well, you're Jamie.
Yeah.
I heard about you, Jamie.
Yeah.
So what's your take on this?
Well,
you offering money too?
Well, I'm not offering money, but I have a feeling that if I wait much longer, he'll offer money for someone to marry me. So I'm not completely objective here. I do know that there will probably be a part 2 to this book, because I know that there's many stories that have happened to her that haven't even been told yet. But what I would like to say is that I don't really think, and I disagree with my sister on this, that age really matters that much. I think that it's a matter of where you're at in your own life, and it's a matter of the commitment that you're willing to make. And I think that if you are 23 and you're dating someone who's 38, and you're both at the same stage in your life, and you both want the same thing, that it doesn't really matter the age. I think that, as the woman up there said, you can learn from each other, you can both grow together, and the age is irrelevant.
But I think it's also important that we learn to stress and build on our what we share, our similarities, rather than just opening our mouth and talking about the differences right off. Right. So that starts us off on the right track. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jamie. She says, when we come back, we're going to meet a woman who says that the reason many men don't call back after a date is because she says men have trouble thinking and feeling at the same time. We'll be right back.
I want every virgin out there to get deflowered and to find out how to get that man to commit.
Looking for love in all the wrong places. We've been talking today about, or talking to some folks who are searching for that good relationship where somebody's going to be committed and just striking out again and again and again. Show up, or even show up. Somebody was asking during the break, I mean, what do you deal with in this book? 26 times that you got stood up?
No, I didn't do all 26 times. As a matter of fact, there's very few of the stand-up stories in there. It's more of the bad date stories.
Now, everybody's been talking about you, your grandfather, your brother, your former dates. I mean, what do you have to say in response to these guys?
Listen, I am an optimist, and I am convinced that my mother brought me up on there's a cover for every pot. My biggest fear is that my cover is in the Australian outback. He doesn't have enough money to get over here, and you know, that's what the delay is. Yeah. I love men. I think that they're wonderful. I just think that they just, like you said before, there's a miscommunication or something. There's a different time zone, or they're in a different plane than I am.
And you know something, you're not alone. In just a minute, we're going to have some folks on who are going to help us look at ourselves and our relationships in hopes of getting them together. Because let me tell you, Babette, you are echoing the voices of many women across this country. Right. You're right. But let me tell you, was there ever somebody who you really wanted to meet and you thought maybe this one could work, and something happened that you just couldn't get it together?
There was one guy, and I was being set up on a date with him in L.A. He sounded really great. He really did. He sounded great.
Well, what happened?
Well, I went to L.A. I was staying at a friend's house, and he was supposed to meet me at a restaurant. And I had said the time, and I said 12. And I guess he didn't hear 12.
This is a reoccurring problem.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of times it is miscommunications. It's not anybody's personal fault. So what had happened is I showed up at the restaurant and I sat there for 2 hours and he never came. Well, and he ended up showing up too. though, at 2 o'clock and waited 2 hours. Then he called me that night and said, listen, obviously something happened, but I really would like to meet you. So we planned to meet the next day at Venice Beach. And he never showed.
Well, let me tell you what, we didn't want you to go having 27 stand-ups, okay? So we brought, what's his name?
His name is Rick.
Rick. We brought Rick to you via satellite. Rick. Hi, Rick.
Good evening.
Kind of weird way to have a date via satellite, but look how many chaperones she gets, right? Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Hi, Rick.
I'm doing great. How are you tonight?
I'm okay. How are you? Where are you, anyway? Where do I look?
Well, you just look over there. Now, Rick, what happened on this date, man? I mean, how come you guys didn't hook up?
Like it was when Murphy's Law just happened. You know, as Babette was talking about it, we had it set up at 12. I heard it wrong. It goes back to 2 o'clock, and then we wait. So I get back, and we reconnect. And then the next day, we had an appointment to meet at Venice Beach. And what happened on the way is Murphy's Law struck once again, and my car broke down on the way. So she's there, I'm not around, I have to deal with my car. At the end, it was just one big mess.
Rick, is dating as tough for you as a whole lot of people across this nation?
At times it can be, very much so.
It's a tough game. It's a tough business, isn't it?
Sure.
You're cute, Rick.
I beg your pardon?
You're cute.
She said you're cute.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah. Nice to see him. He can't see me, though, can he?
No, that's kind of like the bad thing about it.
That's better that way, actually.
Let's bring some more folks in here, because all of us could use a little help now and then. My next guest says that the women's movement brought us independence. It didn't bring us love. She further says that there is no equality in romance. She's a psychotherapist and relationship counselor who says that she has seen more than 2,000 people actually marry as a result of her advice. Please welcome one of the authors of Getting to I Do, Dr. Pat Allen. Thank you for being here. Also joining us today is a woman who converted to Pat Allen's way of thinking. She said she did that after being involved in several disastrous relationships. She's Getting to I Do co-author, Sandra Harmon. Welcome. Yeah, so you guys can obviously relate to the things we've been talking about today.
Absolutely. You know, Freud said, what is it that women want? Everything. And that's the problem.
Why is that a problem? Why can't we have everything?
You can have everything sequentially or when it's time to have it. Babette?
Yes.
Do you want, as a priority, do you want your ideas respected or do you want your feelings cherished? Which is your #1 goal?
I think they're both my #1 goal.
I understand that, and that's how you stay single, because many men...
Oh, great!
Fine. This was the day and age where women can have anything they want.
They can have everything they want except a man who's a man.
Okay.
Now, you know something, in your book,
Yes.
I loved one of the points that you brought out. You said that men, if you respect a man's thoughts, you cherish the man. Tell that.
When a man is respected, now remember, all men aren't men. Some are little boys, right, ladies?
Right.
Little tiny boys. When a man is a man, he wants his ideas and thoughts respected. And if that happens, he feels cherished. Now, when a woman wants to be cherished, and she is cherished, she feels respected. And that's the complementarity. For example...
Wait, hold on, before you get to that example, because you pointed to Rick.
Yes.
Why don't we do something even more special than what we've done so far? Why don't we have Rick show up here and you work with both of them right here live?
Okay.
Rick, come on out.
You got it.
Okay. Oh, isn't this special?
He's cute.
Isn't he cute? Listen, we're going to get you a chair during the break, and we're going to talk a little bit, and just, maybe whatever happens to your relationship, it's something you can put in your back pocket and carry with you through life. We could all use this. Also, when we come back, Pat is going to explain why a woman who wants marriage should never have sex with a man until she gets a commitment. We're also going to have some tips for some of you out there thinking about moving in and living together. You better stay tuned to this. That's coming up next. a little closer to that phrase, I do. And how to get our partners to commit in relationships is what we're about to start talking about. But first of all, it amazes me, Babette and Rick, you guys have never seen each other before, right?
Never.
So this is quite a surprise. What you going through there, Rick?
Be careful.
You know, it's like from 24 hours, there's some major changes that have taken place. It's like I'm here. It's as Murphy's Law goes, and then all of a sudden, months later, here I am on.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
Ooh. I like it like that. So, what we were talking about, you said that you noticed some things.
Yes.
Go on, continue.
Rick, would you like to have your ideas respected as a way to be with the woman? Is that an important thing?
Certainly.
Very often, are you right or left-handed?
I'm left-handed.
Left-handed men and women can think and feel, so you're a little different than the right-handed guys anatomically. I want you to understand that one of the reasons that miscommunication can take place is because you have an idea about time in your head, and the truth is, it would be better if she followed your time frame than you followed hers, because you went for it. Do you see?
Sure.
And so there's a team effort that has to go on. If you want to be respected, ask Babette how she feels about it rather than what she thinks.
Well, let's find out if she wants to be
Yes,
respected too.
Babette, would you, for example, be able to defer to a man like Rick so that if the time were not significant, you do it his way? Could you give up enough of your independence to be on a team with a man like Rick?
Well, I don't really know Rick that well.
No, a man like
Well,
Rick.
just Babette, loosen up.
A man like
Yes, yes.
Would you?
Yeah, I'm very good when it comes down to that. Yeah, I'm
Good.
very eager to compromise.
Great.
I mean, I'm the kind of girl who wants them to go out with their friends. I beg
No,
them to go out with
we're
their
not talking
we're
about
not-
that. We're talking about when he says, meet me at 12, you don't say, meet me at 2.
Yeah.
All right?
Of course.
Then that's the way you get married.
But Babette, don't you feel? I mean, maybe you can relate to that. Just
I don't know,
sim-
that sounds a
But
little simplistic
do
to
you
me.
ever feel
Simple.
that if you give in, it's like giving up? I mean, is
I
that a
want-
feeling that
no.
you ever go through that?
Nah.
Rolonda, my suggestion to Babette is find a man, whether it's Rick or somebody else, who she respects enough to put her brilliance in second place for the sake of the team.
No way.
Sandra, you agree with this?
No way, no way.
Wait a minute.
Agree with it.
No.
But I didn't always agree with it. I first met Pat when my last book was #1 on the bestseller list, so I really felt entitled to respect. And I was having a relationship with a sculptor, and I was with him for 3 years, and he wouldn't commit. And all we did was fight, and it never worked out, and I was madly in love with him and hooked on him sexually, and couldn't give him up, and demanded respect, and yet still, when I wanted to be a woman, I cried, I got soft, I wanted him to make love to me, I wanted him to only take me out. But then when I got tough, as my ex-husband said, most women are willows and you're an oak. So at the time that the women's liberation movement came in, I followed right behind it.
Right.
And I was extremely liberated, extremely successful, had and have a wonderful life. The only thing I didn't have was a man I loved and who loved me. And then one day, I was led to a Pat Allen seminar, and I was told about all these marriages and all these women. And when I got there, I was horrified because she said equality doesn't work. That's all I was after was equality. She said no sex without commitment. And clearly, I was having sex without commitment. And he wasn't committing. And I couldn't, and everything she said, although I hated it, and I literally ran out of the room after listening, I thought, she's crazy and dangerous, and all the people who are listening are fools.
Hold right there. We've got to take a break because when we come back, I want to tell you what in the world she said to turn everything around. And we're also, when we come back, going to meet a woman who says she followed Pat's plan, and now she's going to be married in less than 2 weeks. Her incredible story when we return. Stay with us. How to make our love lives work, and Dr. Pat Allen has been giving us some love tips. Just before we left there, though, Sandra, you were giving us this story, and what happened? Because everything that Pat said you didn't do, and that didn't work. So what happened?
Everything she said was the opposite of what I'd been doing for 20 years. I was demanding equality, and Pat says, choose to be respected, choose to have your thinking respected or your feelings cherished. If you want both, you're narcissistic. Well, of course I wanted both, you know, and as she talked about communication, how to talk to a man, the very most important that I have a little souvenir for Babette.
No sex without commitment.
First of all, you have to have a man show up to have sex without commitment.
That's true. We believe you have to choose to be the male or the female in the relationship, but
Okay,
not
Pat,
both.
tell us, how do you do that? Because let me tell you, one of my concerns, because when we were talking about this, the producers and I were kind of batting this around. It was a group of women, and we said, you know, we want to do that because we all want relationships, but doggone it, we don't want to be puppy dogs either.
I fully understand that. If being a wife is a puppy dog, if being a partner with a man you respect is a puppy dog, there's a lot of women want to be puppy dogs out there. All right?
So, a lot of claps in here. Go on, you can clap if you want to. But how do we do that so we strike a balance and still maintain a partnership?
Your partnership is the same kind of a partnership as a team.
Okay, question from the audience here.
You know, I have a group of friends. We've all changed our attitudes lately. No sex, talk to them, become friends, but it's still not working.
What's not working?
Each one of us goes out on a date. We try. Everyone says, don't go for the looks. Try his personality.
That's
what
right.
He's doing.
What's not working? He's not calling you back?
They're not, well, first, it's hard to find. In our age group, the over 30 club.
The first thing you do is don't go look for a man.
No, we don't. We go out, we have a good time with friends. Right,
Absolutely.
and we've all done that.
Good.
But you meet someone and it just doesn't work.
Do you flirt? Do you know how to flirt?
I have a bit. I'm very shy.
If you're shy, a man can't know that you're approachable. Look him in the eyes and smile and don't speak for 5 seconds. That'll show him. That will show him. How many men in the audience would love a woman to look in his eyes and smile?
And how many women would feel like a moron doing that?
I want you to
Wait a minute. What's this look in your eye and smile business? Wait a minute. What?
Because if they look at you in the eye, it makes it a little easier for you to approach them.
Yes, it does.
Of course. You don't feel so intimidated.
You're
I look at
absolutely
you, I
right.
see that gets a little smile, then I think you might be interested.
How would he know if he came over that we won't reject him?
Okay, pardon?
How would he know if he walked over to any one of us, unless we smiled at him, that we won't, when he comes over, say, you jerk,
There's
who
a
wanted
difference
you to
between
come here?
smiling at somebody and staring at them.
No,
in their eyes.
staring.
Flirting.
It
It's
isn't
flirting.
staring. It's simply looking and smiling long enough for him to know you're a friend.
You know, in New York
That's
City,
right.
when
That you're
in a
user-friendly.
When you're in a bar in New York City, and this is one of the reasons I left New York, you know, you meet a guy, you're talking to them, they seem interested in you. In the meantime, they're looking over your shoulder to see who else is walking in the door.
Somebody else is smiling.
anesthetized. Most people in bars are under the influence.
One guy who did that, who was looking over my shoulder, I went in his face and I said, hello, I am the best thing that's going to walk in that door.
Well, that's an indication right there you don't need to be with him. Hold on.
And that attitude.
Wait a minute. What are you saying back here?
I said no.
What? Why?
I think this young lady should slow down. I think she's a bit too
I
fast.
find it
That's a
insulting
problem.
a man looking around at other women when he's supposed to be talking to me.
Well,
I
son,
think
this
that's
lady
very
back here thinks you're
insulting.
moving a little too fast. You need to slow down a bit. Hold on.
I totally agree with you, but I do have a question for Babette. Being that now that you've written your book and it's out there, and you said that it was sort of therapy for you, what have you learned and what have you brought into your current relationships that have changed things for you now?
Good
I don't internalize. One thing is, when it happens, when I get stood up or whatever, I don't internalize it quite so much anymore. I don't beat myself up so badly anymore. I also have become a little bit more outgoing as far as when I do see a guy that I like, I am going over to them and trying to start up a conversation, even if it's to talk about the nice shirt he wears.
Then make sure he likes to have you as a leader. Make sure you like sensitive
It's not
men.
questions. You ask a person in the first 5 minutes when you meet them.
We say he who speaks first is male, and will probably remain that way
You know,
for the
I don't
rest
know.
of the relationship.
Wait We got,
maybe for
wait a
the
minute,
above,
before we
excuse
have
me,
the attack of those who
maybe for
disagree.
the above
Wait a minute, wait a
group,
minute.
That might be working.
We got to take a break. We got to take a break. Got to go to a commercial. And as we go, and we'll be back, we're going to leave that list for you to study. You know, if you've been doing it wrong, we're trying to teach you how to do it right. We'll be right back. That's funny. You know, we were laughing because before the commercial we had the top 10 reasons why, and it was only 5, so we said to be continued, and we just finished the 5 reasons there. But anyway, you had a question during the break.
Yes, the main problem, I think, with relationships is the fight for control.
That's right.
How do I, as a woman wanting to be feminine, give my husband the control without being afraid of losing that?
I want you to understand that before you marry him, you've already sorted that out. If he's man enough, that you respect him enough, that you can defer to him because he can take you to a better place than you can go by yourself, it won't be a problem at all.
Okay. All right, I want to introduce you to a happy couple. Come on, you guys, join us. I want you to introduce yourselves.
Lynn Mortimer.
Bill Sachs.
These folks took Pat's course, her seminar, and now they're about to be married in less than 2 weeks from now. Welcome, you guys, and congratulations. That's great. You got to tell me, I mean, what was it? What was the main thing you think that Pat taught you that you really, that made it work to get to this point?
I learned so much from Pat. I think one of the main things was that I wanted to be both respected and cherished, and what I had to learn was to make a choice that being respected and being right was important, but it wasn't helping me to be happy, and feeling cherished helped me to feel happy.
How do you cherish her?
Usually I'll ask her something like what would make her happy, or what would make her feel good.
So you deal with her feelings?
Feelings, yeah.
And you feel cherished too?
Well, I feel respected in terms of if she feels cherished, then I will get respect from that.
Honey, there's nothing wrong with feeling cherished. Whew, okay. Congratulations to both of you. Gosh. We'll talk about that in the next break. And we'll be right back. The fireworks going off in here during the break. We have certainly been talking about relationships today. And we're going to treat you guys to dinner tonight so you can go out there and chit-chat about some of the things that Pat was talking about. And in the meantime, Rick, I got somebody who I'd like you to meet. His name is Grandpa. Come here. Yeah. See you later. See you next time on Rolonda.